good morning, everybody. Nick Kamada, right here, right now, in the present of now. Another amazing episode. Of course, we have a special guest straight directly from Europe. So I'm a little bit more excited than usual because I'm European as well. So we have an amazing guest from Europe. He got a lot things to say. We have a little pre-chat before, and I'm excited because we got to talk about authenticity, and I'm kind of a soft spot for me. So I'll introduce everybody. Mark, Meyer, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I don't know much about you, so I will start a little bit of asking, well, what's your story? How do you end up where you at right now, and how do you end up doing what you're doing?
Great. Yeah, I love to tell that story. I'm a psychotherapist. I do therapy and I do couples therapy, individual therapy. Then I work as a business consultant for companies where we work with authentic leadership and working together authentically in teams. And then I coach leaders. I coach professional athletes on finding their purpose. And then, of course, I wrote the book, The Art of Being Authentic, which I hope we get to talk a little bit about today.
Oh yes, I'm personally excited. Like I said, authenticity is a soft spot for me, and it's lacking big time in my opinion nowadays. Everybody's got a copy. Oh, everybody's got to copy somebody. The famous people, or I gotta wear. If you see all the teenager wear the same shoes, the same dress, it just copy and paste. And
Yes.
I'm just such a big fan of be authentic, be yourself, in trying to be you. So that's extremely fascinating to me. I'm happy that we got to talk about in this platform. But before digging into that, you're in Denmark, right?
I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark, yes.
Who how amazing! I love Central Europe. Germany, Denmark, and up there. I would really want to go to Finland up there too. I'm just craving to go back on the Europe trip. What's going on out there? What's the situation compared to States? I want to see a little bit of background from there and see what's the difference.
Well, what's the difference? Well, I guess that the situation is a little bit like it's always been, but maybe it's a little bit more apparent right now. I mean, I think the whole world is experiencing a lot of division, right? There's a lot of polarity, but politically, economically, financially, and I mean, I think that's the same all over the world, right? So it's interesting times, and it's a time where I think authenticity matters a whole lot. It matters a whole lot in terms of our leadership, but also for each and every one of us when we go into the world. The world needs a little bit of our authenticity in order to become a better place.
Oh, 100%. It's lacking big time. It just everybody is not their goals no more. I remember when I was studying history, and through the Italian history, all the Galileo Galileo, the Michelangelo, all this people, they were just with no technology, nothing, just a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and the ability to create things. They were discovering amazing things. They were discovering all this authentic way to express and help other people. And nowadays, our leaders or famous people or things that are out there to look up to, they're just TikTokers or people that dance in front of the video. I'm just feeling that we're losing authenticity.
Yeah, I think so. And I think to go back to the point in the beginning where you said everybody wears the same shoes and everybody's looking to others, even the way we use the word authentic right now has changed because, one way to use authentic, well, let's say that the Mona Lisa, I could say that that's an authentic Leonardo da Vinci painting, right? And you'd agree with me, Nick, because it's an original, right? And since you're Italian, maybe I should ask you another question. And I should ask you, what is an authentic Italian Godfather, an authentic mafioso? What does he look like, right? And
Yeah.
if I ask you that, now you start thinking about a guy with a suit and tie and a cigar, and he has his hair back and everything, right? And the
Yes.
reason why you start thinking about that is because he looks like all the rest of them. So we also use authentic to describe copies. So in one way we have
Oh my
authentic
God,
as an
yes.
right? So in one way we have authentic as an original, and another way we use authentic to describe a copy. And then of course it becomes difficult for us. So if I have to be an authentic person at doing what I'm doing, should I then look to others? Okay, does if I'm a leader, should I then or I have to be like Stephen Jobs or I have to be like Bill Gates or Elon Musk? Because I think that authentic is also stereotypes. So the whole way we talk about authentic has really changed, and we've sort of forgotten, as you say, the passion, the uniqueness, the us in it, right?
Thanks to bring me that one. I didn't realize that we trying to be authentic, but then at the end we're trying to stereotypes and copy, other things. So everybody wants to be the next Steve Jobs, but Steve Jobs was Steve Jobs because he was authentic itself. He was uniquely himself. So you can't really create another Steve Jobs. What you can do, you be your Nick Camarda, you can be your Mark, you can be you yourself and be the next Steve Jobs, not to compare, not um, to copy. It's just to get inspired by it, get kind of a energy from it.
Exactly. I totally agree. And it comes to, I think it comes back to one of the things that are really important when we talk about being authentic, which is what is our purpose for doing things. And that's also the main reason why we can't really copy anyone else, because if I can try to emulate Stephen Jobs or Elon Musk or whoever I'm looking up to of TikToker or influence, I can try
Yeah,
to emulate these people. But if my purpose is not the same, which it won't be because we're all unique, right? Then it's going to be really hard for me to go through, right? And then I kind of get lost in it. And I really have to motivate myself, and then we end up getting stressed because we're sitting there and we're eating breakfast like Bill Gates, and we're sorting our emails like Elon Musk, and we're working out like Tony Robbins, and we're doing all of these things, and all of a sudden it becomes too much, and we start looking around and we say, okay, this isn't working. What should I do? And I guess it's at that moment, I think it's very important that we realize, well, what I got to do is I got to connect with my authentic self.
absolutely, absolutely. It's fascinating how more you're trying to get far away from yourself, from your purpose, from your authentic you. It gets so hard on you. Your energy gets so low. You can't really do much. You don't feel fulfilled. It's powerful how as far as you go away from yourself, you lose power, you lose energy. But I want to focus on something that you said about purpose. And we mentioned a couple of times already, and it's such a word that it's not been used so much, and it's not been understand as much. What's purpose for you? What will you since you work with a lot of people?
Yeah. What's important to realize is that purpose is our motivation for doing things, right? It's what we bring to the world, what brings meaning to our lives. And we live in a world that's very goal oriented. And people think a lot about goals, right? But they forget that a goal in itself has no meaning unless there's a purpose tied to it. There has to be a purpose. That's the most important thing. And a lot of people think of purpose as just some high level goal. So you'll ask them, okay, well, you talk with somebody and say, okay, I'm setting up this new business or these new businesses and I'm doing this and that. And you ask, okay, what's the purpose behind it? And then people say, well, I want to make money. And then they'll be like, yeah, but that's not a purpose. That's just another goal. That's just a goal behind the goal, right? You want to be rich.
Yeah.
You want to do something. A purpose is different, where a goal isn't, you have to achieve it or you have to strive for it. That's sort of in the word. That's inherent to it. That's not inherent to a purpose. A purpose is something you should express. You should be able to express. So let's say that one of your purposes, Nick, is to be a good friend. Well, if one of your purposes is to be a good friend or a kind human being or whatever that may be, you can always express it in the moment. So when you're with a friend, you don't have to attain or achieve something. You can just turn to that person and say, "Hey, how may I help you? How are you doing? You're looking a little sad today." Also, so a purpose is something we express and a goal is something we chase. And it's important that we have that purpose behind every goal we set in life because otherwise we're gonna end up unhappy once we achieve our goals. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I want to dig a little bit more into,
Yeah.
but it makes a lot of sense because you basically the difference between goals. It's a more profound goals. I would call it. It's just deep rooted in there. I would call
Hmm.
almost it comes more naturally to
Hmm.
you, and
Hmm.
see if we can connect on that compared to a goals that you need. I need to lose weight, so you need to purposely go that direction to go and get to the gym, walk more, or purposely going their direction, compared to the purpose is something more naturally that comes to you that you need to find to create fulfillment in your life. Does it make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To create fulfillment, right? Because that's what we experience. We experience fulfillment when we express our purpose, right? So let's say, I don't know, we can come up with an example, right? It's like, I want to go out and I want to do some good in the world. I want to go out and I want to help homeless people. I want to feed the homeless. I'm going to walk around for 8 hours a day. I'm no way in that I'm in shape for that. Okay, great. Well, I'll make a goal. I want to go to the gym. I'll go and I'll exercise so I have the strength to go out and live my purpose. Then all of a sudden your goal makes sense, and every time you tie your goal back to your purpose, that's when you really get that fulfillment because as human beings, we thrive and we're happy when we express that purpose. And that purpose gets lost sometimes in the world today because we're so fixated on goals.
So instead of putting goals, we need to, create, define our purpose, and then connect the purpose to the goals to our purpose. That's where you can find a better fulfillment. And I think it might be easier to achieve goals.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I write in the book. I write that you can strive to reach your goals. That will require effort and discipline, or you can find direction from your purpose. That doesn't require the same effort or discipline, but it just requires that you understand yourself. Not just it requires that you understand yourself. In the book, I give the example. I say Mother Teresa. God rest her soul. If she was alive today, I say it with humor and jokingly, if she was alive today, you would not see Mother Teresa on Instagram doing selfies saying, I just fed 10,000, tomorrow it's 15,000, right? Because it was never about the goal for her, it's all about the purpose. So she would give the same satisfaction helping one poor person as she would helping two, 10, 100, 1,000 poor people. It wasn't the quantification of it that gave her something. It was just the act of expressing her purpose. So you're absolutely right. Once you connect with your purpose, it becomes easier to realize your goals because you get a sort of a deeper understanding of why it is you're doing what you're doing.
Fascinating. Now I have these images of Mother Teresa on TikTok somehow. That's beautiful.
I'm
That's beautiful.
sorry.
That's okay. I won't sleep tonight. But you totally right. Definitely she won't be on Facebook, blushing and telling everybody how many people it fed. That was amazing example. Basically, we were talking that kind of to create a chronology, a kind of a dimension here is we need to define a purpose before even start the journey. How hard is to do that? Because you help people, you professionally help people and that leaders. How hard is to find your purpose, and is that purpose very close to other people? Because then I'm wondering how we can connect to authenticity. So I want to reconnect everything to see how we can find purpose, and how purpose is related to authenticity in this point.
Yeah, I think that authenticity at its root, at its core, is about aligning with your purpose. So I think what keeps us from being authentic are the same things that keeps us from finding our purpose. And and there's a few things you have to look at. It's about self-awareness. Obviously, you have to look inward. But there's some things that keeps us from finding our purpose. There are things that keeps us from being authentic. And the first thing is the fear of judgment from others. What are other people gonna say? Oh, if I do this, what will they think? Right? and
Yeah.
then we stop. The second thing is, well, what happens when we've been judged all our lives? Everyone has. What happens when we've been judged a lot? You start to internalize it, right? So you start judging yourself. So maybe no one's even judging you, but you start judging yourself. No, I can't do that. No, why? Well, no, no, no. I'm not. Maybe others can do that, but definitely not me, right? So that's the second thing that keeps us from it. And I think the third thing that keeps us from it is is actually how to go about it, right? Because should I look to others? Should I look to myself? How can I know? How can I trust myself? And then we start worrying about stuff like, at what cost? Because what if people judge me? Or should I be authentic at all costs? What if I lose my friends? If they don't like the fact that I am this way, right? So there's a lot of things that keeps us from even trying to entertain the thought, what's authentic for me, because it can have a lot of consequences. And I mean, you mentioned some authentic people in the beginning with Galileo and others, and it certainly had consequences for them to be who they were, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and um, there's a price, and then you're from what you were saying, it's almost easier in the society nowadays to copy other people compared to be authentic because nobody wants to take the risk to be authentic, to be himself, because it could be too, you expose yourself too much. Are we too weak compared to the past that we are not as powerful and then like I don't care what happened, I still want to be authentic. Or it's more of we are not aware as much as in the past.
Well, I don't know. I think we look at the past also with certain with us in a certain way. So we look at it when we look at it in hindsight, we have a better overview, right? So when we look to the past, it's easy for us to see people like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Galileo, and so forth. But we also have to remember what kind of context were they in, right? Mandela was in South Africa in apartheid, at its peak. It was not a good environment. Martin Luther King, in the '60s and in the U.S. and so forth. So I think that when we are in it, we can look around and say, "Oh my God, things look so terrible," right? But I think I don't think it's and we necessarily worse off. But if we are, it doesn't change our individual responsibility towards ourselves and towards the world to be authentic. Does that make the sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And this is something that I've been, thinking quite a lot. That we are too good right now. We still have food. We have Amazon if we need something. We have so many benefits out there. Even if we are struggling, like I don't have enough money, but still enough money to have food, so that the bases are all covered. I have a roof. I have food. I have enough people around. So we are not as much challenged and compared to other people to bring the fire and put ourselves out there to create authenticity. Instead, you need to yourself going out on your comfort zone compared to in the past. After wars, there's the best people coming after wars or after disasters because then when you realize the only option is to put it yourself together and build your strength. So is that because we are way too, surrounding the but of good things, we are too well, um, and we can really push it. It's harder for us to. You really need to focus on yourself to put you out there.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're right. I mean, growth happens outside our comfort zone, right? And you are certainly right that after crisis, humanity has a tendency to sort of rise and find itself in a better place, right? And that's also I think what we need. But maybe we're in a period of time where society sort of like we talk a lot about being outside our comfort zone. We talk a lot about growing, right? But it becomes a very ego-oriented growing, and
Mm,
that ego oriented growing is perhaps not as authentic. But that's a way that we also misunderstand authenticity. Some people, we see people being ego driven, and then we think, well, they must be really authentic, right? the philosopher that sits in his apartment and drinks red wine by the bottles and chain smokes and yells at everybody, "Get out of my house! I'm writing my philosophical thoughts." Or the rock star that will only get on stage is everything is perfect. We think, wow, they must be so authentic, but really they're ego driven. They're driven by ego. They might be driven by trauma, right? And when we look at authentic people, if you look at a person like Nelson Mandela, who I personally consider to be very authentic, or if we look at someone like Martin Luther King, what did they do? Were they ego driven? No, they worked with the people. Nelson Mandela worked with the very people that imprisoned him, right, to build a society. So authenticity is not ego driven, but we tend to misunderstand it as something, or we can misunderstand it as something that's ego driven.
So bring yourself, humble yourself. It will be a very, very good step to get yourself in the idea of finding yourself, because then all the filters goes down. You're start to truly being yourself. You don't worry about what other people start to think, because you start to humble down. Like, yes, I make mistakes. Yes, I'm not perfect. Yes, I'm here to grow. So I think that's powerful. We end up in a very good spot, because the creating, um, pushing yourself on your ego. I'm the best. I want to do this doesn't get you an authenticity. But lowering yourself down, bringing yourself down to the level of everybody else, and putting yourself instead of the pedestal, just down to the dirt, to recreate your authentic pedestal, where you start to build your pedestal. You then you can shine higher than everybody else, because you find you're truly you.
Yes, it's a great way of putting it, Nick. And I think it goes to something about it goes to confidence and self-esteem. Because again, if we look at this culturally, there's a lot of focus on confidence, right? We have to be good at stuff, right? But confidence and self-esteem are two different things, and I can briefly
Mhm.
touch upon it for the listeners. Confidence is how well I expect to handle a given situation. So if you and I go to play a tennis match, if I'm good at tennis, I'm going to have high confidence. If I'm not good at tennis, I'm not going to have high confidence. If I beat you, my confidence will go up. If I lose, my confidence will go down. Self esteem has nothing to do with how I expect to handle a given situation. It has to do with what is the worth I put on myself. How worthy am I basically of love, right? And that's unaffected by us playing a tennis match. I can win, I can lose. It'll do nothing for my self esteem because those two things are not related. And in order
Mhm.
for us to be authentic, we have to let go of that ego driven confidence and say, okay, I'm going to cultivate my self esteem. Because the minute I feel worthy, that's the minute that I'm going to do what you just said. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to say, okay, people are going to judge me. I know because I've also been judging myself, but this is me. This is my authentic self.
That's beautiful. Yeah, totally agree. Is that, but it comes a question right now. Is
Hmm.
that, do we really need a crisis, or we really need something terrible happen in our life, or something, not terrible, something incredible can happen in our life to realize that we're far away from authenticity, or we can slowly step in the idea to get on the journey? And that's how you probably can help other people, and that's probably your job, correct?
Yeah, that's true. And I think the ego likes these dramatic changes, right? So then this happened and then I did that. And now I'm authentic. Check. Look how my life changed, right? And that's good for Hollywood movies. Real life, it seldom works out like that because you have real concerns. You have rent you have to pay. Maybe you have friends and relatives you have to tend to, and so forth. But of course, there needs to be a realization that what I'm doing right now is not working for me because otherwise change is never going to happen. And I compare it a little bit to an airplane ride. And since you're in the US and you're from Italy, let's compare it to a plane ride from Minnesota to, I don't know, Rome, which is probably around the same latitude somewhere. And you start up your flight and you fly directly. That's the purpose of the flight, right? Now, if I compare that to a life journey, well, what happens when you're on your authentic journey towards your authentic destination? Well, somewhere in your upbringing, you're going to do something, and the people around you are not going to respond exactly how you wanted them to respond. So you come
Hmm.
home really happy, whatever, and say, "Oh, this and this happened," and then the people around you are like, "Ah, Nick, behave, be a little quiet. You're too noisy," and you kind of get that. Oh, okay, so when I'm like this, people don't like me. And
Mm.
then you go like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna change. Not a lot, just a small percentage, not even 1%, maybe half a percent or a quarter of a percent. So I'm still myself, 99.90% myself. And then something else happens. The same thing happens. You change a little bit again, just a little bit. So by the end of this, maybe you're 99% yourself. So you just changed a little bit. Well, if we compare this to the plane ride, what happens if a plane takes off from Minnesota? It's 1 degree off course when it's been
Oh,
flying for 8 hours, right? You
oh
look,
yeah.
yes, you look out the
You,
window, there are no
you
piazzas, no
you
red
end up
wine.
in Africa.
Exactly, exactly. You're looking out the window saying, I'm seeing jungle here. I'm supposed to see little piazzas and, and whatnot, right? And that's what happens for most of us in life. And of course, it's about how self-aware we are, how much we look around and look inward, right? And when we make that realization, that's when we can try and step into authenticity. Fortunately, like we've been talking about, a lot of things happen. Like when this happens, often we look to others. So we go on to Instagram or TikTok, and we see something with some coach that says, "Well, I used to make $2,500, and then I followed this plan, and now I'm making $25 million." And your low self-esteem is going to go, "Oh, that's why." It's not me. I've just been doing it wrong, right? Or you
Yeah.
see somebody to the saying, "Okay, you just have to will yourself through it. You can push it. You can do it," and there'll be some dramatic music in the background, right? uh, you know, and then maybe you go with that, but your life's not supposed to be, you don't have to motivate yourself like you're crossing Antarctica in a blizzard. you know, it's not all of that. It's not outside yourself. It's inside yourself. It's connecting back to Rome or Milan or wherever you're going, back to that
Definitely,
authentic self.
definitely, definitely. That's a good thought too. Starting from your inside to working outside. A lot of people do totally the opposite. See, their emotion or their life was like, oh, I'm sad, so I need to take some medication, or my head is exploding, so I'll take this, or I have no money, so I need to go to work. Compared to what work inside. So what my purpose, what I want to be in the next tomorrow, in the next 5 years, and then what comes outside. So to find what I need from inside, I change my outside. It's powerful. It's very, very powerful. Something that I believe, and I want to ask you a question about this. Something I truly believe is that we talked a little bit of a journey, from Minnesota to Italy. It's 8 hour flight, and you need to take off, and then you need to stabilize. Then you offer the snacks and lunch, and then you need to go down and departure, taxi, and all kind of a full journey. And life is a big journey. It's not just a plane flying. It's a different flight in that. Um, what finding connecting to find your purpose is a kind of a easy to just I found my purpose, I'm good for the rest of my life, was a keep going, trying to find your purpose, is a journey of the journey itself that make fulfilling is to trying to figure out your purpose.
Yes, I think that there's a few aspects to that, and you're totally on point here. First of all, finding your purpose and being authentic is not it's not a check mark. It's not like I have completed this. Now I can say I have a laminated certificate, 100% authentic, T. Mark Meyer.
It's a
It's not like
stamp
that.
authentic.
Yeah,
Authentic. No.
yes, exactly. There's no stamp because we evolve during our life and our motivation change. Motivations they change. And then there's another thing to sort of remember, and that is that we don't have one purpose in life. We have many purposes depending on the situation, right? So, for instance, my purpose with my work is to empower people to be more authentic in their life and in their business because I think it's important. But I'm also a dad, and sometimes my youngest girl will come home from school and she'll be crying because she had a bad day, and then I'm just supposed to hold her, give her a hug, and be there and be a dad. I'm not supposed to empower her to be authentic. I'm just supposed to comfort her,
Yeah.
right? So we need to realize also that our purposes change, and we have multiple purposes in life that we express differently depending on the situation.
I want to add something that's beautiful. I want to add something to that.
Hmm.
Is a finding a purpose in the now depends of every present. So be more present, help yourself to be more authentic.
Yes, 100%. I write in the book, sometimes we need to stop thinking, what should I accomplish now? And start thinking, who do I want to be right now? Who do I want to be right
Right now.
now instead of what do I want to accomplish? Because that presence is what's going to make us authentic. And that presence is also what can make it a little bit scary. Goals are easier to have than purpose. It's easier to connect with goals because while you can definitely be present while you chase your goals, you can also be not present. You can shut out everything in the world and say, okay, I'm just going for this goal and
Yeah.
this is all I'm focusing on. So you don't have to be present with anything. But with purpose, if your purpose is to be a kind and loving father, well, then you have to be present with that. You can't, you cannot not be present with it. And that's why sometimes it's easier for people to just focus on goals because they can shut everything out, and it can be scary to focus on purpose because you have to be still and present.
This is something that since it's still February, still a lot of people. I just got an email from a coach is like 90% of people they don't fulfill their goals. In February, they stop doing their New Year's resolutions, and I was laughing about it. How everybody in New Year's revolutions to accomplish the goals for this year, yada yada yada. It always made me laugh because I never had. I feel myself I'm very successful. I like to be accomplish things, and I never had a New Year's goal. Never in my life. I always thank you, thank you for this other year. I was grateful compared to making goals for the next year because every time we put a goals ahead of us, we're trying to focus on that time and not what we're doing right now. So my heart believe and be a present. This is so powerful, especially if you want to, if you're trying hard to be authentic, because when you start to recognize yourself, find your purpose, be authentic, don't connect and trying to copy other people and make other people happy, but make yourself more powerful, more energetic. Um, Create in the moment. If you're authentic and you are in the present, you are extremely powerful. Everything you write, you do, it's right, especially your mistakes. You make some beautiful mistakes, some perfect mistakes that can help you in your journey. It's extremely powerful, and every time I encounter myself when I feel like I'm in my energy, I'm present, I can see everything right now, I can zoom in and zoom out in my dimensions, I can feel, I feel that I'm authentic. That's where everything you do is correct. Even your mistakes are perfectly calibrated to achieve yourself. It's extremely fascinating.
Yes, it is, and that's also where I think authenticity meets flow, right? When you're being authentic, it's much more easy to get into this state of flow, and things become more natural for you, and you become less worried. There's less anxiety in your life, and there's more presence, right, in that moment. I completely agree, Nick.
Yeah, definitely. And there was this Disney movie. It was Soul, I believe. There was this um, a guy that was supposed to play piano, but then he turns out to do something else. I think it was soul, I believe.
Yes,
And when he
yes,
was and he was playing the piano, it was in the zone. I think they're called the zone. And when you're talking about flow, I love them movie a lot because it explain a lot what means to be when you're present, when you're aware, when you're you basically. You.
yes.
Everything sounds better. Everything feels better. Everything makes sense in few words.
Yeah, I think so, and it's one of those movies. I love it because I watched it with my kids, and I love those movies that speaks both to the kids and they can speak to the parents at the same time, right?
Oh yeah.
And and exactly this zone, this flow state, and it's also something. If we think about what's authentic for us and what we'd like to express in the world, often with clients, I ask them, well, what did you enjoy when you were a kid? What made you feel really happy when you're a kid? And a lot of these things tend to sort of relate to your purpose, right? So, one will say, well, I like to sit out and look out the window and write poetry. Okay. Well, their purpose is often something with communication and expressing themselves or doing something with art or whatever, right? So, some of these things that we've always been good at can be a good indicator. And also, I mean, I ask that to my clients. I ask them. I'll say, okay, listen, let's try a little exercise. And I'll say to them, okay, I want you to pretend for just a moment that there are no expectations, no expectations from anyone else. If there were no expectations from anyone else, what would you do, right? Or I ask them, okay, well, what if money wasn't an object? Then what would you do? And then I'll take it further. I'll say, okay, money's not an object. There's no expectations. And whatever you decide to do, everyone's going to come and say, wow, that's great. I love that, Nick. You should definitely do that, Nick. Everybody would meet you with positivity. And when we try to sort of bypass sort of other people's judgments and our own judgments and all our worries, then that's a way to sort of connect to our purpose. And our purpose, maybe we can't express it exactly in the way that we envision it there, but then there's definitely components. Okay, what I saw there, the components, I need to take that with me tomorrow when I go to work or tonight when I go home to my family, you know. So trying to sort of ask yourself those questions and bypass those fears and judgments. That's what's going to get you to your purpose.
Yeah, and I have a question, and my answer is yes, but I want to see your output on that. Does life already display to you what you're naturally good at and what's your purpose? And we have our time seeing it.
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Um,
I can't rephrase it if you because it's kind of at least what I see in my own life, already see that I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do, but I couldn't see it, or was hidden, or was not the kind of the right things. I believe you already project what subconsciously, and our soul is already giving us all the tools and putting out there. You're already doing exactly what you're supposed to do. It's just the realization to make it more purposely, more awareness of that.
Yes, I agree with that. I think we naturally drift towards what is our purpose, and I think you're right about that. It is something that we uncover, because our purpose is something that is the sum of our experiences, what we're good at, what we like, what we enjoy, how we feel we can express ourselves comfortably, right? So it's not something, because sometimes I get clients that say, okay, let's sit, I want to define my purpose. Let me tell you what I want my purpose to be. And I'll say, well, I mean, it's not like a goal list. You can't sit down like you would with a goal list and just put, okay, here are, 10 goals I want to reach. Purpose is something you uncover. And the reason you uncover it is exactly what you say, that is something in you. Your talents meets your world experiences, and that forms your purpose because you have special talents, you have these experiences, and then you realize, wow, I could express my purpose like this. So yes, we've always had it with us, and we continue to have it with us. but we need to, and that's why we need to uncover it, right?
Yeah, it's more of a discover, let's uncover what we got going on right now compared to let's go on a mission and find a purpose. No, let's whatever it's projecting right now, your life, you whatever you experience, there's something in there that you're already doing. Let's find it, and then we can set, the next step, because whatever you're doing right now, it's a stepstone closer to what's your purpose. It's hard to see because we don't know what's our purpose most of the time. That's why we're just kind of running fast with a blindfold.
Yes,
It's kind
yes.
of it's harder. It's harder. Well, we talked a lot of things. I want to trying to summarize a little bit, we need to work hard to find a purpose. We looked at the difference between a goal and a purpose. How we need to find a purpose to then create goals to feel more fulfilled, and be more aware can help us be more authentic. And working to authenticity is not just trying to copy other people, but finding your true self. We talked a lot of things, and you talked pretty much all of this one in your book. So I want to more go in your book and your work, in how you can help other people. Why did you write this book first? Let's ask that question.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to write that book because it was, I felt it was basically my own journey, but I also felt that when I spoke with people, when I had clients, I saw that a lot of the psychological pain they had came from the opposition of being authentic and trying to live up to others' expectations, you know. So being vulnerable and taking that step into authenticity. So I thought that this is something that can do a lot for us, and I think it's something that the world needs. It needs, and would lead a lot of finding purpose. So that's why I wrote the book, because it's not as straightforward as people think. I mean, just from this conversation, hopefully people can see, the way we use the word, right?
Yeah.
So that's what sort of like got me to write the book. That's what gets me to go on these podcasts, and it's for me, it's, I want to plant a seed with people to think about authenticity and what it can do for them in their lives, and then hopefully one day they'll be ready to make a change. And if they want to make that change by buying my book and reading it, or having a session with me, or they want to do it somewhere with something else and with someone else, that's fine. I just want to sort of, that's my purpose, and that's what I want to live, is to talk about authenticity, right?
It's fascinating how we go back exactly right there. Writing the book was a step closer to your purpose. It was a goal to create your purpose. That's fascinating. How you're truly in tune. We need to learn all that. What do you say in this book? How this in this book can help? What's the kind of do you have more kind of a story, and how explain a little bit deep in that?
Yeah, in the book I talk a lot about self-esteem. I talk a lot about how we can impact our self-esteem in a positive way, because in essence, a lot of people think that, uh, you know, well, I can only have so much self-esteem. I can't have, really high self-esteem. You can have that, Mark, or you can have that, Nick, but not me, because with my upbringing, that's not. And
Mhm.
and and it's
With
really
my
not like.
past, my things, I don't think I'm built for
Exactly. And really, we're in control of our own self esteem. The actions we take every day, the decisions we take every day can either contribute or take away from our self esteem. So I talk a lot about self esteem because it's important. You're not going to risk being your authentic self. You're not going to risk not fitting in, to express who you truly want to be if you don't feel you're worth it. So the book covers a lot on self-esteem and how making authentic decisions can add to your self-esteem, how making inauthentic decisions can take away from your self-esteem. Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's almost it's not a motivational book, but you will get a lot of motivation after this book.
yeah. Hopefully you'll get a lot of tools to sort of like go out and be authentic, because that's what I talk about in the second part of the book. Is I talk a lot about intention. I talk a lot about why do we do the things that we do, And that also has to do both with self-esteem and authenticity. I'll give you an example because, let's say that we talked about the homeless earlier. Let's say you want to go out and feed the homeless. I want to go out and feed the homeless as well. So we both go out, you go left and you feed all the homeless on the left. I go right, I feed all the homeless on the right. Now, if you go out there with the intention that you really honestly want to help these people, right? You want to make a difference in their life, you're going to come back and you're going to come back with a heightened sense of self-esteem. You're going to come back with,
Hmm.
emotionally, you're going to feel well. If I go out there and I feed the homeless because I can't stand to look at my own problems, I have too much problems going on, so I'd rather just focus on other people's problems, right?
Yeah.
When I'm come home, I'm gonna still have those problems, and I'm gonna come home with lower self-esteem, right? So we're basically doing the same thing, but it's going to have a completely different impact on our emotional well-being. So the book talks a lot about that. Talks a lot about, well, how do I get to my intention? How do I get below those feelings of inadequacy and anger and whatnot? And so I can find out what is truly authentic for me. Because of course, if you have a lot of problems, then don't spend your time feeding the homeless. Spend your time, on your own
Work on
problems, right?
yourself.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So the book talks a lot on that, and sort of hopefully it'll provide a bit of some tools for making authentic decisions, and also for not risking running out thinking you're doing something authentic, but then it actually has the opposite effect, right?
It just got me something. It got me thinking while you say that. It's how probably most of people are acting right now when they take a selfie while they're donating something. And give me the image why how far away from the authenticity they got, and especially in intention. So I'm doing this one because then I can um, get some likes, so and I get some sponsorships, and I get money, I get fame, and I get all that kind of stuff. How incredible a different energy gets if you give it something to somebody in a genuine way without anything back. And and then I want to approach to my next question: how is important to your intention that you're saying to an everyday life, even if it doesn't cost money, it doesn't cost energy, it doesn't cost extremely much. And I always bring the example: why don't you smile while you walk? This is such a powerful for you, for your body language. If you have a bad thought, trying to smile, your life change completely in an instant, because your brain doesn't recognize what's going on, if it's true, it's false or true. So automatically all your chemical changed, and you start to get adrenaline, dopamine, and start to get excited, and start to get happy. But even people around you, you give something with nothing back. If I smile a person, I don't expect to smile you back. It's very minimum thing. It doesn't matter to me. But how hard it can change, because automatically when you smile people, they instant to smile back, unless you're smile in a creepy way. Then they will start to look in a different way. But generally, smiling to people make me, or greeting or say hi, or just generally small things that can people do every day, they make a big impact. That 1 degree difference in a flight can make a huge impact. I want to ask you, what, because this is a podcast for people that listen, they first step is to buy your book. That's for sure, that help. Get it on your schedule, that will help. But what people can do in everyday life, very simple small thing to do to connect with their authenticity and find a purpose. What's some kind of practical thing to do?
Well, a few things. I mean, obviously, they can ask themselves the questions that I mentioned earlier. Start asking yourself, okay, what if there were no expectations? What if I didn't have any expectations myself? What if whatever I did, people would meet me with positivity? Would I then change something? Because then sometimes your values comes up, right? Well, if at work, they thought it was cool that I, was more caring, then I would be more caring. But I feel I have to put up this facade, so these questions of self awareness, I think, is hugely important. I think also it's important to understand that we need to bring purpose into everything that we do. And one of the ways to do that is to say, okay, as we talked about earlier, what do I want to be right now instead of what do I need to accomplish right now? Because when we live very goal oriented, we can sort of defeat our own purpose, right? I give the example because we all do it, right? I give the example in the book also that sometimes with my kids, especially when they were younger, right, they had to be in bed by 8 because I wanted them to be well rested, right? So because I'm a good father, and just one of my
Hmm.
purposes is to be a loving dad, and things were going very well until 5 minutes to 8, they're in their 90s and they brush their teeth, and then the little one would empty her Legos all over. And the older one would be like, I'm never going to bed, Dad. I've decided I'm going to go to bed at midnight from now on, right? And I'll be like, hey, listen, you got to go to bed, and I'll start with that little
Yeah, yeah,
authoritarian
third.
voice, and then it would end up in something with there's an iPad ban for the next week, and you're never having candy again and stuff like that. And all of a sudden we're arguing, right? And then my wife gets annoyed with me. It's like, well, you lost your temper, and all of a sudden, in just a daily practical example, I defeated my purpose of being a loving dad because I was fixated on the goal, right? And that's something we should carry with us in all instances of our lives to say, okay, what is my purpose here? Because I want to make sure that I don't defeat my purpose trying to chase my goal. And then I would say the third one, inspired by your example of smiling, is take those little moments where you can do something authentic. And just the act of smiling is something that I personally thought about in my life. I thought about when I walk past people, then, smile to them, but I get a little embarrassed, so I'd smile and I kind of look a little bit like a frog, because it's a small smile, right? And they'll do the same back. And I'm like, why is it I just don't give them that regular smile that I give when I meet my friends and when I meet my family, or, why is it? It's like, that's because I'm afraid they're going to judge me. I'm showing a little bit of vulnerability. What if they don't smile back to me? Well, here's a moment for me to be authentic. So here's a moment for me to smile, a big smile to the next person that walks by, right? So taking those little moments.
That's beautiful. It comes up as a little story I want to tell. I hope I won't be too long, but it was extremely funny. I'm extremely I'm a joker. I am a teaser. I'm funny, and then I don't take me too serious. I'm that kind of person. And I was grocery shopping with my wife. Somehow we were laughing around. I don't know what happened to the situation, but it was a lot of energy. Both frequency were super high. We were really into, and we were groceries. We were joking around. I was tossing the apples, tossing the orange, and somehow we started dancing, a little quick dance in the Bigelow of the grocery stores, and then with my wife, I spin around, and then I started dancing myself, like extremely dummy. If somebody was if you take the cameras, they were like, this person is crazy and all that kind of stuff. I have a high sense of I don't care much about other people, but it's kind of a hindering me, so I don't struggle too much. Plus, with the journey, trying to be authentic, there was a very authentic moment. The best part was this nice lady with the shopping cart after this little moment. It was literally 4 seconds, nothing crazy. And it came by and it's like, I gotta tell you something. You remind me a lot of my brother. He passed away and he was as goofy as you. He would dance in the middle of some, very serious moment. So thank you for that. And her voice was extremely genuine and almost, on a cry level. It was a beautiful moment. So when I unintentionally did that, so it's kind of when you're on some frequency, that when you create that kind of frequency, because in a grocery store, people are gotta do stuff. They're thinking, I gotta get all my stuff, go back home, cook something, or go to work. It's not a place where you can get inspired. Be me, be myself, be as goofy as I am, doing my little dance, and I inspire and I help this person get that moment when he reminded me that person, it was extremely, extremely fulfilling for me. I was extremely thankful and powerful that something stupid as what I did and simple and free and not take too much energy was as extremely as powerful as that. That was a life changing for me. It was a moment that I will remember for sure because I don't think to make a difference in life, because I think we are here to experience life and make a difference. It's not as hard as we think.
No, exactly. It's a beautiful story, right? There's a beautiful story about how a seemingly random display of joy in a place where maybe could if you had to conform, it would be inappropriate, but it's harmless. Actually makes ends up making a difference for someone else, and that's important to remember, and important for the listeners to remember that they also can have that effect on the people around them when they express their authenticity, because that's what the world needs more of us expressing our authenticity, because then authenticity is about being ourselves, but it also allows other people to be themselves as well.
Amazing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We I think we done today in our my purpose here with this podcast is if one person and all this people that listen to us, only one per person get inspired, get an idea, get a tool like your tools that you're offering, and can change something in their life. My life is to feel I can die happy. The I'm over there. I'm done. I'm good. So for everybody out there that it's kind of looking for a difference, looking to find a purpose, it could be stuck, and in this environment and this routine and this journey every day, the same thing. Definitely, definitely, we gotta take a look at this book. Now I'm curious too. I gotta go Google it and download it. And of course, all your um, your practice, your schedule. So tell us a little bit how we can find you, how we can schedule, and where we can find the book.
Yes, great. If you want to pick up the book, just head over to Amazon, and go to search for The Art of Being Authentic by T. Mark Meyer. If you want inspiration on how you can live more authentically, you can follow me on Instagram. I share little clips and quotes and whatnot. And that's authentic T Mark Meyer on Instagram. If you're more into the leadership aspect of things, find me on LinkedIn, where I speak a lot about authentic leadership. And then, of course, you can go to my website, which is tmarkmeyer.com. I have newsletters both on authentic living and authentic leadership. And of course, you're welcome to, book a session with me. I do online sessions on finding your purpose.
Fantastic. We'll put all these links down below, so it's got to be super, super easy for all of you to reach it. Thank you so much, Mark. I think it was a fantastic talk. I had fun. I discovered a lot. I remember all this amazing parts that I almost forgot about this moment. So it bring me a lot of joy and a lot of happiness. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. It was a pleasure being on the podcast.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll see everybody on the next episode, and thank you so much.